Dreamers everywhere, welcome to the Dueling Disney podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Andee Zomerman.
And I'm the other one of your hosts, Aldee. How you doing?
Okay. Except that's not really true.
Just okay.
I'm very discombobulated. It's spring break starting today.
I like to use the phrase Twitter-pated.
Snowing. Yeah, not Twitter-pated, discombobulated. Twitter-pated would mean I'm in, like, flirting, right? In lust.
Well, I mean, aren't you? No. You're married.
Oh, I don't care. The Twitter patient has left a long time ago. I love my husband, but there is no Twitter patient anymore.
Wow, that just makes me so sad for you.
Well, you know what? The two of us are going on a Disney cruise this week, so I'll let you know afterwards if the Twitter patient has returned. But
I mean, both of your girls are out. I figured that was like the reblooming of romance.
Are you forgetting I still work with middle school kids on a daily basis?
I mean, I don't interact with middle school kids, so I think the frame of reference is maybe are middle school kids like antithetical to romance or something. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't really interacted with middle school kids since I was a middle school kid.
Well,
so
they are. I'll just tell everybody that right now.
Go Tenaya Junior High. Woo.
Are you sure it's not Tenaya Middle School now? They changed everything.
I don't know. What do I care? What am I? Should I be hanging around middle school?
No, please don't. Please don't. Just stay away. Anyway, it is spring break and it's snowing outside, and I'm not exactly happy about it. And then my computer was doing all funky things, and so I'm just a little bit discombobulated, not Twitter-pated. Anyway, how are you, and how is your hip after surgery? 3 weeks after surgery.
I'm good. My hip is good. For folks who maybe have missed a couple episodes, I had a hip replacement. I'm not old. I had a hip replacement surgery 4 weeks ago yesterday.
4? I thought it was 3.
Nope. I had it on February 24th. It's March 24th or March 25th as we record this, and I'm good. I had my last physical therapist appointment yesterday. Yeah, she and I agreed I didn't really need any more. Wow. I am walking with a cane for now. I can easily walk without a cane, but she still notes a certain sort of favoring of my operated leg, and she and I thought that it's either that it's not 100% there yet, or that my body is fighting the muscle memory of limping on that leg for all those years, and I just have to my body corrected for it for so long that I just have to kind of
learn how to walk.
Stop doing that. Yeah, learn how to walk again. I actually was originally going to be at WonderCon in Anaheim this weekend and Disneyland, but I thought I probably shouldn't push it because going to comic conventions near Disneyland for me would be impossible not to walk a lot, and I thought that was probably a bad idea, so I canceled my trip. But
yeah, probably good. There are a lot of things going on at Disneyland this next week, and I mean a lot of special events. WonderCon is going to bring in thousands of people. There are special events happening this week for special groups of people, and all of Oregon has the same spring break, and guess where they all go over spring break?
Southern California, especially when it's snowing.
Exactly. So
And I have a business trip in Anaheim next month. So I figured, I'll just go down and give myself another month to heal before I hit up Disneyland. And I will decide at that point if I need to rent one of those cool scooters.
I just was thinking that, like, those scooters are waiting for you.
I'm telling you, I'm not above it. I'm not above it.
All right. Well, maybe I need to escort you on one of those trips, just to make sure you're okay.
Yeah, that would be the point. But you all, as mentioned before, are about to go on a Disney cruise on Tuesday as we record this. Yeah. So I'm really jealous about that, although I'm not jealous about how much it costs, as we discussed extensively last episode.
Whatever, it's the same as Royal Caribbean.
That's not the numbers I ran.
You didn't run it
but
for
then I
two
was thinking
people.
after we recorded, I did a little more research, and I think part of the difference in prices is I always have to account for the solo prices, and Royal Caribbean gives a little bit of a break on the solo prices, whereas Disney Cruise laughs at you if you say you're going solo. They laugh and point at your face.
Okay, that's fair. Great. Okay. Yeah, so we'll see. I will be sharing, some Instagram stories, probably getting on there every once in a while and telling people how it goes. I'm really going to focus this next week on the adult parts of the ship. Ed and I did it on our own 25 years ago, and we're gonna do it again.
And that's
So
where Emma came from.
and then we brought home a souvenir 9 months later. Anyway, but not she. So I'm gonna see how things still are on the adult parts of the ship and kind of focus in that area. So that's where I'll be, and that's what I'll be sharing about. If you want to,
and what's the specific ship you're
the
on?
Wonder,
The Disney, the Wonder.
It's the sister ship to the Magic. So
spelled Oneder.
The Oneaters.
The Oneater.
Oh, anyway, so how's your Disney?
A joke only people our age get.
I know. There's so many of those. I walk around school saying these things, and not only do the middle schoolers not get it, but there are a ton of teachers so much younger than me that also don't get it. So
everybody that works for me knows they're not going to recognize any of my references, and I am not going to care. It's just that thing I do.
Okay, well, it's all my vocabulary, so I'm kind of stuck there. Anyway, how was your Disney week? What did you do? What happened?
My Disney week was pretty cool. I've been locked inside in recovery for my hip, and I also was on some pretty heavy medications there for a little bit, so I wasn't able to do much. But the first time I left the house to do a thing, I live in the Bay Area, as folks who've listened for a while know. I went into the city for a ticket I bought way before I scheduled my surgery for the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus Disney Pride concert.
Yeah.
And it was really cool.
Oh, nice.
And so they did a bunch of Disney songs. The thing they did that I thought was really great is it was a concert, and they do all kinds of concerts on different things, but it was a concert where it was all Disney music. And what they did is occasionally they would have a member of the group come out and tell a personal story about sort of their connection to Disney, and sort of one couple talked about how they had been married 3 times, and a trans woman came out and talked about how much Mulan had meant to her, particularly growing up, and how that was a real awakening for her. It was just really, really cool to just sit in a room and hear people sing Disney music and be very earnest about their connection.
That's awesome.
I am you and I are both sarcastic-y type people. One of the reasons we get along, but just to hear somebody be genuinely like, hey, this is a good thing, and I really appreciate it. It was really cool and heartwarming, and I dug it. It was so much fun.
I love that.
It was so much fun.
I'm a little bit jealous about that. That sounds really, really cool. And you did just remind me of some news. It's not my Disney week, but I'd like to bring it up. I think it's great that the largest LGBTQ conference in the world is next going to be held at Walt Disney World. Thank you, Bob Iger, for making that happen. I think it's perfect. I think it's great. Way to support. So very happy about that.
Way to be there. I agree. What about you? How was your Disney week?
It was actually really, really good. Coming home from school most days, I am very tired and very exhausted. But on Tuesdays, I help with another teacher, and we run a pop culture club at school with some kids. And so this week, my co-teacher had this great idea, and he said, we're going to give them 10 minutes, and they have to make a slideshow in 10 minutes. That's all they get on how to defend a villain, like making a villain not a villain. So you know how Disney does like those Maleficent, and you're like, oh, she was just misunderstood kind of things. Right. So it was really, really good. I was so pumped. The kids in 10 minutes, they buckled down, they got to it. And the things they came up with were great. The defending, now we did say any villain, they could do any villain, but most of them did Disney and Disney franchise.
Right.
Sure. So one,
I just was hoping nobody did like Hitler.
No, they were all fictional. It was all into pop culture. But it's just some of my favorites. Somebody did the whole Boba Fett thing, which, as we know, kind of turned around in its own series, but
Sure.
he just had a whole thing about bounty hunters, which was really great. One girl, I love this. She did the hyenas from The Lion King, and of course
Oh, very
they're not
cool.
villains. And she went through this whole presentation, but basically she said, and the hyenas killed Scar at the end, so they're the heroes. I'm like, dang straight they are. And then one of our friends, so great, did not want to do a slideshow. He had to do a whole whiteboard presentation on why the whole empire is good, Jedi are bad.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun. Yeah, so it was really, really good. But we did figure out that there's one villain that cannot be defended ever. There's no defense for her. And I'm wondering if you agree or if you could think of a defense for her. You ready? Who do you think it is?
John Doe from Seven.
No, I already told you it was a her.
Oh.
And it's a Disney her. It's a Disney villain.
Oh, and there's no defense. Cruella.
Yes.
From
Yes.
101
Yes,
Dalmatians.
that's exactly
come
it.
on. She wants to make a coat out of puppies.
Yep.
Even though that was one of the few Disney like live action ones that I actually really enjoyed.
I never saw it.
The Cruella
I never
movie.
saw it.
It's actually pretty good, but they don't quite get to the part of her killing puppies. So
that's.
But how do you defend somebody wanting to make puppies into a coat? There's no defense.
There is no defense. That's for dang sure. So it was very fun. I came home just in this great mood. It's just,
I would have a hard time defending Cinderella's stepmother also.
I have to think about that one.
Or Scar.
I don't know. Cinderella's stepmother was loaded with jealousy. I mean, there's just so much jealousy. Scar, oh, trust me, my co-teacher had a whole defense of Scar. I'll have to let him get into it one day, but oh yeah, he was on it. So anyway, should we talk about the topic at hand? Why don't you introduce it?
So, as our longtime listeners know, I am a bit of a Disney collector, to say the least. And Heritage Auctions, which is an auction company that I'm familiar with because they do handle a lot of comic book based auctions, currently has an auction for Disney memorabilia. And we're going to put a link to it in the show notes. It's actually active this weekend as we record. So you'll probably not be able to hear it in time to participate in the auction, but I'm sure all the stuff will still be up there. And it is about 850 different items of Disney, a lot of park used props, a lot of just different really cool stuff. And as a collector, I just look at this stuff and drool over stuff that I would love to have were I infinitely wealthy. Unfortunately, I'm not infinitely wealthy. So Annie and I decided, well, why don't we pretend we're infinitely wealthy and look at the auction and say, okay, so what would you bid on if money was no object? And what kinds of stuff would you want to have? I am just so stoked about this because it really feeds my collector mind, which is probably a bad thing because as a collector, I definitely know that I would, if I won $1 billion in the lottery, I would remain the cheap person that I am, except as it relates to the collection. I probably wouldn't even move to a different house, but I would be like, I need a warehouse for all the collecting stuff I'm going to buy.
Oh man, I think you need some professional help to deal with.
I'd probably still book an inside cabin at the bottom.
Seriously, can we please get you some help to deal with this?
I would be like, well, I don't know. What am I going to do with a balcony?
Sit on it. That's what I plan on doing. That's for dang sure.
I'm sorry,
Fonzie. I know. As soon as it came out of my mouth.
Again, a reference lost on anybody.
All right. Well, so here's the thing. When you showed me all of this stuff, I wasn't expecting to get excited. I'm not usually excited about things. I'm usually the one who wants.
Yes, you're just better than me, is what you're implying. I get it.
I am.
We all get it.
We all do. That's why we have this podcast, to prove I'm better than you. Usually the thing, I want the money for the experiences. Like if I was going to buy, a figurine or go to Europe, I would pick Europe. That's just what I do. That's my thing.
Right.
So I'm just kind of curious, for you, I will tell you that I looked on this site and I was like, oh, I want that. 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 So I have a ton of things that I didn't expect to want. I do have a question before we start talking about the items. one of the things we watched the what's his name, Provost Park Pass, is that what? Yeah,
Provost Park Pass. Yeah,
Provost Park Pass, and
yeah. Chris Provost and his wife do a really great YouTube channel.
it is, and I'll share the link to that YouTube channel as well. Now I lost my train of thought, so that's awesome. Oh, I know what it was. He said that those auction items, which I didn't realize, all of those auction items are given by private people. None of them are like donated from Disney. And so I guess I wasn't really thinking that at first. I was thinking that maybe these are just old Disney things that Disney's like, here, put these up for auction. But these are things that private people have. They put them up for auction, which is so interesting to me in a number of ways. Like, one, how did they get the item? Two, why are you getting rid of this item? Like, knowing it's such a collectible, why are you getting rid of it?
Right.
And so it's so interesting to me. That made it more interesting to me, seeing the items that were available.
Right.
Even like, how did you get this? How did you?
Yeah, especially like a lot of the Disney store stuff.
Oh yeah, right.
Like, I'm like, who did you know? Right? Because basically a lot of that stuff is the Disney store was closing and somebody knew somebody who were like, yeah, I'll give you this, right? Like, and to your point, right? Like, I am infinitely more of a collector than you
Absolutely.
are. And so I really understand sort of that mindset of, oh God, part of the fun of collecting is the hunting it down, is the getting the thing that nobody else has, right? And so part of that is I do know, like when I go to Disney stores or places like that, especially if they're like closing, I'm not above, pulling the manager aside and saying, hey, are you getting rid of this? Or at a movie theater when they got a really cool stand up. Hey, are you, is this promised to anybody? Now, 15 years ago, that was so much easier to do. Until nowadays, everybody realizes that stuff might be valuable. But in stores, I got a ton of like old movie posters that I just got because I knew someone. So I think that's where part of it comes from. I think the other piece to your point of like, why would you finally sell it, is part of being a collector is you get too much stuff.
Yeah.
I currently have 2 different storage lockers of stuff. And I'm like, I can't continue to like have this much stuff. And so it's not that you want to get rid of it. It's just that like at a certain point, if something's been sitting in a storage locker for 10 years and you don't have the ability to display it or enjoy it, you have to make decisions about what is going to continue to be part of your collection. So let's say you are so some of the ride vehicles, which we'll talk about when we get to the specific things. Let's say you're a Disneyland collector and you happened upon ride vehicles, but most of your collection is attraction posters, right? And you've got to decide, if I get rid of this ride vehicle, which I really like, but mostly I connect attraction posters, then I'm actually going to be able to use that money towards more of this specific type of collection, right? That's sort of how the collector mindset works. Well, other people, I never sell anything for any reason, which is a problem. But I have things in my collection that just I happened upon that don't mean as much as other things in my collection. So for me, it's the dual Disney collectibles and comic books. But like I said, I got a ton of movie posters. If somebody came and offered me money for all my movie posters, mostly I'd be like, great, it's money to use on other stuff. And I don't feel necessarily super connected to all of those, except like I might keep the Disney ones, right? Because I've got some really cool pre-release Disney movie one sheets. But it's sort of that weird collector's mindset. But when I look at this collection and the different things people are parting with, like you, I'm like, oh, how can you part with that?
I know.
Oh, and there's a couple items, and we'll get to it, that are identical in the auction that I actually have those items. They're not, the items in the auction are not mine, but there's 2 really central parts of my Disney collection that there are versions of those being auctioned off, and we'll get into that later. That I'm tracking just because I'm like, I want to see how much my stuff is worth.
Yeah, for sure. I know.
And,
can you go back after it's sold and see what it's sold for? Can you do that?
Yeah, that's the part of it is, it's Heritage Auctions, and I've been registered with them for other auctions before for comic book stuff. Usually they do a lot of comic stuff. and they keep it's a big auction house, and so they keep track. You can go back to old auctions and just look at what stuff has sold for before. And so even once this bid is, so what you can do is go on the site right now while the auction is going and hit track items,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll sort of keep you updated
Mm.
on sort of where the auction is going. Like I said, it's an online auction that's going over this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and I think it ends tomorrow night, Sunday night, with, sort of with the final bids. Online auctions are notorious for for not really a ton of bids coming in at the
Oh, I'm
beginning and
sure.
thousands of bids coming in the last 60
Yeah,
seconds,
I'm
right?
sure.
So it was really hard for me not to put a bid on some of this stuff, but like this thing started like $1,000, and I just can't justify spending that money
Some of
right
them.
now.
Oh man, there's so many great things though. But I agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I agree with you. It would have to be something really, really special. And the really, really special
Yeah.
things that I found were just out of my price range
Oh, wait,
forever.
yeah.
Not, I won't
So far
ever
beyond my price.
be.
Like, would I spend them? Would I, if I was a millionaire?
Yeah,
And this is the whole
yeah,
point of this.
yeah,
And
yeah.
let's transition into it. The Tomorrowland Skyway bucket.
That's my favorite.
Were I a millionaire?
Mm-hmm.
Would I put a bid on that?
Yeah. I would
Absolutely.
too. And in fact, if I had, I mean, we'll talk about some of the items that meant something to us, but I thought about it. I'm like, if there was only one on my whole list, what would I do? It would be the Tomorrowland to Fantasyland Skyway bucket.
Mm-hmm.
I would put that in my living room. I would have that be a little like like a tea, like let's go have some tea in the sky. I would love that thing.
Right?
Yes, I would absolutely love that thing. I was also thinking that.
Well, and I'm curious of and this is always my curiosity, and I'm curious your take on it. Part of what is the thing that causes you to fixate on that thing as a collector, right? So I know for me, the Skyway to Tomorrowland I used to ride that whenever I was at Disneyland.
Absolutely.
It is no longer there.
Right.
I rode it. I remember very specific memories of riding it during grad night because we were looking for our friends who we had got separated from. We're like, well, let's get on the Skyway.
That's what you do.
And so there's the reason I fixate on that is because I have a real emotional connection to like my experience, and part of my brain is like, that could have very easily been one of the ones I wrote, right? Mm-hmm. I'm curious from you, like, what is the thing that causes you to, whether it be that specific item or in general, what is the thing that makes you like connect with it?
Well, it's funny because I'm looking at my list and I have a long list. There's absolutely nothing on my list that I don't connect with personally. There's nothing on my list that I'm just like, oh, I have to have that because I bet it would be a really good collectible, or I bet it would be worth a lot of money someday. All of the things I have a personal connection with. So definitely the same reasons you did. Getting on the Skyway bucket. I have pictures of me and my friends on the Skyway in high school. Just like you said, when you're looking for somebody, you get on the Skyway. Because it went to Fantasyland. You didn't have to walk from Tomorrowland Fantasyland. You got on there so you could see, like, you could bring, and the crowds weren't what they are today. So it was just.
And at the end of the night, when you were tired, maybe, hey, let's just do the Skyway a little bit.
I loved it. That and the people
you
mover.
couldn't find a place to sit.
Yeah, totally. I'm also thinking, I was remembering as you were talking about the items that the cast members can shop. They have like Company D in California and Cast Connections Cast Connections? I think that's what it's called in Florida. Anyway, it's where we can go in. We went. You can discount shop with cast members, but there are areas that only cast members can go into, not friends or family. And they do sell things like old furniture from hotels or things like that. So I'm sure that some of these things came from areas like that. So I forgot about that until you were
talking about it. I guarantee. Well, and I've always been curious because you see these in these big auctions, the ride vehicles. And I'm like, who is the person you need to know?
Yeah, that I'm really curious about. That I'm really curious about. How do you get a ride vehicle? Because I have not seen those in Cast Connections by any means. So anyway, what are some of the things that you like really found that you're like, oh, I want that? Besides
so the first thing I'm going to
go ahead.
Well, it's Tomorrowland Skyway, right? The first thing I'll talk about is sort of and it sort of speaks to my particular collecting bent, is I'm really into things that were from the actual Walt Disney Studio in
Oh,
Burbank.
interesting.
Right? That's just sort of a thing that I really dig. And I think it's because anybody can go to Disneyland, right? Anybody can go to Disney World, but to be able to be on the studio, right? And now you can do a tour of the studio, right? Like you can pay and get a tour of the studio. But it's sort of and we've talked about this, and I actually feel like we should talk about it, maybe devote a whole episode to it. You are at your core more of a Disney parks person.
Absolutely.
I am at my core more of a Disney films person, right? And so anything that's connected with that studio in Burbank, where they made so many of the movies that I love and have meant so much to my life, and where Walt specifically worked and walked around, is really a thing that I really dig on. And so the first thing I'll talk about is there's a sign, the Disney Studios sign, which on my visit to the Walt Disney Studios, when I was able to see Walt's office, I got a picture with. And so in the auction, there is one of the items is, and I'm looking at it, memorabilia, miscellaneous Walt Disney Studios limited edition 7th Street sign.
Yeah, I love that. I saw that.
Bid is $4,100.
Oh, I love that sign.
It is so cool. And I was like, I'm so connected to it because it was at the studio, and I got a picture with the modern version of that sign. And I've seen pictures, that sign's been on that lot forever. And I just was like, oh, I want that. I want that so bad. That would be like the centerpiece of like any Disney room that I would be lucky enough to be able to put together if I ever afford a house that I can have a Disney room.
Yeah, I agree. I saw that and I fell in love with it. And I remember, I mean, I was only on the studios once, the studio lot, and that was in 1989. No, it was in 1990. It was in 1990. Sorry.
Okay.
Or 91. Anyway, in that area. But I do remember, I mean, those signs are iconic. So it's that would be amazing to have. But again, like you said, $4,100.
An iconic sign.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
$4,100. I don't know if the listeners think that, all this podcast money is rolling in, but Andee, this podcast has cost us a net negative.
Definitely in the negative. And yeah, can we do a Patreon, but instead of donating money, like you can just donate collectible, like, I found this thing.
That would that'd be great. I'd be 100%.
I know. Well, it just shocks me too how much stuff I have that I never thought was really worth anything. That I'm like, oh wait, that thing is on the auction. Like, so it'll be fun to talk about that.
Well, and here's my thing, and I've mentioned this to you before. As a collector, you can't collect because you think something's going to be worth more money.
No,
I mean,
but I agree.
Big mistake.
I agree.
You have to collect because it means something to you, and if it becomes worth more money, great. But the dilemma is, I haven't, and I'll get to it. There's a couple things in this auction that I have that are up for a pretty decent price, and both of them are things I'm like, oh, well, I would never sell that. Like,
well, I agree. I have some of that stuff too. Yeah. Okay, so one of the things that might be weird for other people, but I want so bad, and there's 3 of them that I saw on the site, are the parking lot signs. The ones that they have are Winnie the Pooh, King Louie, and Sleepy. And we've talked about this before. I have a great love for the Disneyland parking lot and what it meant and how the contest to get as close as you could. I love the Disneyland parking lot. I'm sorry, I don't know why that's such a big thing for me, but it is. And if I had these 3 parking lot signs, I would be so happy.
That would be super. Well, the Disneyland parking lot is so memorable from the days before DCA, right? Like those would be cool.
Yeah.
Those would be really
very happy to see those. Very curious to see who gets those. What else is on your list?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so the next thing on my list, again, it's connected to the studio, is there is a Walt Disney Production Studio sign, starting bid $2,300. Again, a little bit beyond my my budget. It was on the studio from like the 40s to the 70s. So through the era of historic, Disney movies to the 70s, which is what I call the dark age, because not a lot of good movies came out of Disney animation in the 70s. Although I watched all of them, and
Wait.
their
Oh
live
no, that was
action
in the
was like Candle
60s.
Shoe.
Oh, I love Candle Shoe.
I mean,
Pete's
I actually
Dragon.
really am more of a fan of the 70s live
Yeah, I
action
was
than I
gonna say
am of the
Pete's
70s
Dragon is my
animated.
favorite. I love
Pete's Dragon, Candle Shoe, Apple Dumpling Gang, all the stuff. Like, we went and saw those movies when I was a
Yeah.
kid, but like the Black
Yeah.
Cauldron,
Mm-hmm.
or we didn't
Yeah.
see that.
Mm-hmm.
So the Walt Disney Production Studios sign that was on, it's two signs that were on the lot, but oh god, wouldn't that be awesome?
Yes.
It'd be so great because there's so much history attached to it.
No.
And how do I know Walt didn't walk by and slap the sign? He
Sure
could
he
have.
did. He seemed like a sign slapper, actually. If I
He
were going
seemed
to
like the kind of guy that would
slap
slap a
signs, yeah,
sign.
I'm sure. Uncle Walt was slapping signs as he went by. I'm in love with the signs as well, and so I can't really. I just love every single sign, the signage that is in the park. So I was falling in love with like the Main Street Electrical Parade sign, like all actually used signs. That was really pulling on my heart. I think my favorite one was the 35 years of magic sign for their 35th.
Yes,
because we were there for that. And so like I'm like, oh, it would match my little license plate holder, right? That I have. So I loved it. I love the colors of that. Good memories of being there. The 35 years. That's when I had to pay up and take you to Blue Bayou. So
yes, I remember
that's pretty
that
sad, actually. But
why did you remind me?
I don't
why
remember.
did
I'm
you
too
have
old,
to...
man. Next topic.
Well, I mean, here's the thing I should mention, that sign was on my list.
Because of that?
For the exact same reason, because of that specific reason. And bigger than that, and part of this is like the pull of nostalgia, right? I probably went to Disneyland more that year, the 35 years of magic. Not that I've ever went, but than I had ever gone before. Part of it was that whole promotion where I was like, I'm going to win a car, but I didn't. But like, you and I went, and I just went a lot that year. We were in college, and it was, for whatever reason, we just went to Disneyland a lot that year. And that whole sort of prize machine, what did they call it?
Probably a prize machine.
Disney
I don't
Dream.
know. Oh yeah, it was a dream machine. You're right.
Yeah. It was just a really cool anniversary, and it sold me on going to Disney parks during the anniversary celebration. Like it's always cool, but there's always like an anniversary celebration bump that is always really cool. But it's funny because Disney has figured out a way to make every year.
I know. I was literally just talking to a fellow teacher about that yesterday. I was wearing my I have a Disney 100 years spirit jersey that Emma got me. And I was wearing that to school, and she's like, "Isn't every year a celebration?" I'm like, "Well, pretty much now." Yeah. You're not wrong. Exactly. You're not wrong. All right. What else is special to you?
Okay. I'm going to mention at this point the things that are special, and this is purely selfish, are the two items that I actually own. And they're special to me because it makes me feel like it's like validation as a collector that some of the stuff that I own is worthwhile enough that it's up in an auction for quite a bit of money. And it's not that the money is the validation, because again, these are two items I wouldn't sell, but it's just like, I felt like this proves that I have an eye for Disney collectibles. And the two items are, one, which I have been working to get to put in this case right here specifically for our podcast, but my leg hasn't been working for a month.
Whatever.
And but that's like, this is all designed to have that be right here. Is the Steamboat Willie Big Fig.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say that.
Current starting bid is $410.
Wow. Okay.
I think I paid like $150 for it at Disneyland like 20 years ago. Okay. But it's one of my favorite pieces, and it's one of those you see when you see a lot of people from like a lot of the Disney corporate folks doing interviews. It's one of those things you always see on people's desks. But I love it. They had a whole line of big figs, which are big figures that they did. It was literally because people would go into the Disney stores, and the Disney store had these big figures, and they would always ask to buy them. And the Disney store people were like, no, those aren't for sale. That's just decoration. That Disney said, oh, well, we're missing out on an opportunity. And they had a whole series of big figs, which you can still find at the park. They still do the big fig line. But this was one of the first. And it's a black and white Mickey from Steamboat Willie that I love so much. The other is 1959 monorail replica, 50th anniversary, that was made by a company called Master Replicas, that I saw at a Comic-Con. One of my first Comic-Cons, this company Master Replicas, which isn't even around anymore as far as I know. And it's a really detailed replica of the 1959 monorail. There's a red one and a blue one. I have the red one. Starting bid for the red one is $525. Starting bid for the blue one is $3,200. So make me go, oh, how did I miss the blue one? But the one that's up for bid is missing a battery cover. It's missing a whole bunch of the stuff. I'm like, I got all that
I'm
stuff.
Sure you do.
So starting bid is $525. I'm like, well, mine's going to be worth more than that. But it's actually one of my favorite pieces because I love the monorail. So I will combine both of those into the next one I'm talking about, because I have those. So I don't have to bid on those two items because I already own them. Although I will say, the box for the Mickey Mouse Big Fig, I, for some stupid reason, threw away years ago. I still have the original styrofoam, but here's the thing. Styrofoam, if you don't keep it in the box, starts to degrade over time.
Even if you keep it in the box, sometimes it degrades over time.
Even if you keep it in the box. And this is like 20 years old. So recently when I moved, I went on a huge search to find a box that was almost the exact same dimension so I could delay some of that degradation, at least a little bit. But my Mickey Mouse Big Fig and my monorail are both in the auction, and I'm super curious how much they'll go for. But I love those because I own those, and I'm really happy to.
La. Very cool. Well, I saw something that I own.
I mean, I'm not a big enough person to have one of the last lights from the Main Street Electrical Parade that would never come.
Ta-da! I have a light, and I saw them in the auction, and they're selling 3 of them for the starting bid was $260. So I asked,
that's pretty good.
Yeah, I asked that. I'm like, well, how much did you spend for this? And it was so long ago. I can't even remember how long ago he bought it, but I'm sure it was only like
I can't remember how much.
I'm sure it was only like $30 or $40 at the time. So I mean, it did go up that much in price, but it does prove to you people that not only do I have one of the lights, but 3 more are for sale in the auction. Therefore, at least 4 lights are missing from the Main Street Electrical Parade. So next time you watch that parade,
because those are the exact same lights.
It is. It is. But anyway, okay, that wasn't really a list item. I just had to say that. So I am putting a bunch of things into one group. I want the whole grouping of it. So I'd have to buy all of these things. But they are selling furniture, lights, shower curtain, and door decal from Grand Californian. And I have our aesthetic in our home is like the Grand Californian. That's what we love. And so we have like a little tiles from the Grand Californian, but they are selling like all the stuff that was in the hotel room and some of the chairs that are in the lobby. And I'm like, yeah, I want that. So that's what I want.
I'm super curious because that's Disneyland. The Main Street Electrical Parade is Disneyland. We've talked about this, and this is especially true for Emma and Annika, but I think it's a little bit true for you about your preference for Florida's parks over Anaheim. But a lot of your picks have been Anaheim, so I'm curious if that has any relevance about like emotional connection.
Yeah, it does.
Whereas the Disney World parks, because they were created after, they could fix a lot of mistakes. They have the advantage of size. Obviously, have some huge advantages, but the emotional connection about Anaheim. Is there anything there, or am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. Everything I saw from Disney World, I passed on and I didn't care. Because if it's going to be a collectible and emotional, yes, I do love to go there for my vacation. Absolutely. But that is not where I grew up. That is not where my mom grew up. That is not what I grew up seeing. So even I didn't go to Disney World for the first time until 1989. So from 71 to 89, all the things that might have been special to that park, I wouldn't know. I wasn't there. I was at Disneyland. Yeah. And so, yes, I am adding some more things onto my pick right now. But there were chairs up for auction from the Blue Bayou. There's a chair from Club 33. That tugs on
I
my
want the
heart.
chair from the Blue Bayou for obvious historical reasons.
Yeah, but the only thing is, starting bids are like over $1,000, and I want to use them. So if I bought these things, I'd be like, nobody touch them. They're going to be in a glass case, and I don't want to do that. I want to use them. So I don't know how I feel about that, but
I mean, I'm okay with the glass case.
I know you are. I know you
right?
are.
Like, especially like I'm a comic book collector, so it's like, great, I have this comic.
Don't touch it. So that one kind of hurts. But anyway, that's it. I do like the furniture, like you were talking about. How you collect the figs and the things like that. And I was thinking about that because they have different categories of things, right? They have the pins. You might be, attracted to the pins or the figs or the artwork or the furniture, right. A lot of furniture. They have costumes. The furniture, yeah. They have costumes. They have the signs. There's a lot of categories of things. And I think that my eye or my heart, it's the furniture. It's the usable things that have been used by people. So anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I had one of the park benches from Disneyland. Which one?
The Main Street one?
The Main Street one.
Me too.
Just, I won't talk about it a lot because you've covered a lot of that area, but I just really, there's something about something that thousands and thousands of people just sort of use every day at Disneyland that I think is really kind of cool to sort of own.
And then maybe we did too.
Same thing with
right? I mean, you don't know. You might have sat on the bench.
Well, that's just it, right? Like, you don't know, right? Like, you don't keep track of those things,
Yeah.
So the next thing on my list is, and this is something that existed only for about 10 years. Okay. And I still miss it. There's versions of it, but it's still not quite what it was. There's a sign from the Disney Gallery. And if you recall, the Disney Gallery was above Pirates. And for many years, now it's where the family apartment is. And I think they call it the Dream Suite at Disneyland.
21 Royale is there.
Well, now it's 21 Royale, but it's been a number of things over the years.
True. That's true.
But mostly I remember it because it was the only time you could access it publicly was the Disney Gallery, which is where they had the high-end sort of Disney collectibles. And I could never afford anything at the Disney Gallery. And they have Disneyland on Main Street now, which is kind of a similar thing.
It's different, though.
But it's not quite the Disney Gallery. Right. And I would just spend, when we'd go, I could spend the whole trip in the Disney Gallery. And if people would be like, let's go ride some stuff, I'd be like, yeah, but I'm looking at the Disney Gallery. And so I loved that space so much. And you could, when the Disney Gallery was open, pay to stand out on the balcony. Now it's a part of 21 Royal. When I went to Club 33, we did, this is where we watched Fantasmic, and they'd have a dessert buffet and you could watch Fantasmic. And it was always in my mind how I was going to propose to whoever I was going to marry was like out on that balcony after Fantasmic.
That ship of course sailed.
And you never know. I could still get married. Listeners, one of the listeners may be attracted to my voice, and if so,
So are you telling them to stay on the podcast and don't check us out on YouTube?
Oh, ouch. Oh.
You said attracted to my voice. You said it.
Yikes. Oof. If I pull it together and wash my face, I'm not a offensive looking person. But the Disney Gallery I loved, and I would love to have a piece of that history. And part of that is because it just doesn't exist anymore. That's also something that I found as I looked through this stuff, is stuff that used to be there that isn't anymore. And that, like, there's a whole generation of people. I think it closed in 2000. That's 23 years ago. God,
I was a little shocked. Oh, go ahead, finish.
Well, I'm just saying that a whole generation of people have been born and lived that don't even know that place existed.
Which is weird. And this happened to me twice. And I've talked about this before. And this happened like 5 or 6 years ago now, but I was in a teacher's lounge at the school I used to be at. And he was talking about, going to Disneyland, but bummed because he was never on the People Mover. I'm like, what do you mean you were never on the People Mover? Go on it. He's like, it's not
Right.
there anymore. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yes, it is. I'm like, get on it. He's like, I've never been on the People Mover. And I was like,
It hasn't been at Disneyland for years.
Oh, it's really not at Disneyland. It's only at Disney World now. And same with...
It hasn't been there since before Rocket Rods.
Exactly.
So there's like a whole generation of things that have come and closed since.
The same thing happened with the gallery when Provost Park Pass was talking, and he's like, and so the Disney Gallery was there, and it's been closed for 20 years. I'm like, what? Didn't I just go there? What are you talking about?
I feel like I was just there.
I was. And so I swear, if you were just, life or death situation, Andee, is the gallery still there? I mean, before I heard that today, I'd be like, yes. I don't know.
Right.
It's just when something's like always a part of your life or a part of your experiences, and then you don't notice when they're not there because you just expect them to be there. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
It's very weird.
So the
Also, I discovered another item I own.
What?
It is the Marquee miniature model by Bob Olszewski.
Yeah.
Annual pass holder exclusive. That's starting bid $525. I'm like, good Lord, I'm a good collector.
Yeah, you are. I know. In a minute, I'm going to show you some things I have, and I want to get your opinion on if they could be an auction item or not, a worthy auction.
Oh, absolutely.
Item.
We already know the light.
Yeah, the light, man. Okay, so here's one thing that I saw, you guys, that is so cool to me. And it is the 3 sleeping guards of the Sleeping Beauty diorama that was in Sleeping Beauty's castle. Yes. And honest to God, I don't know. Again, right now, ask me, Andee, is the Sleeping Beauty walkthrough still open? My mind says yes. Is it? I don't know. Is it open right now? I don't.
It is.
It is
but
open.
It's now a whole different. It's still the Sleeping Beauty walkthrough, but they've made it much more. They've upgraded the technology. It still looks really cool, but it used to just be like paper cutouts, and now it's a whole other thing.
It never. I want those diorama things. It was such an important part of my childhood, and one of those things where every time you go to Disneyland, you'll go through the castle, and then one day you just don't go through the castle, and then you forget, but you still think it's still there, even though you don't go through it all the time. So yeah, that's one of those things for me. So that pulled on my heartstrings a lot when I saw those. So the 3 Sleeping Beauty figures.
Yeah, that would be really cool. How many more do you have? Because I could talk about this.
I could go. We could do like a 3-hour episode. So why don't
okay.
I don't know. Give me 2 more.
Okay, 2 more. Okay, and this one is controversial. Even I'm not sure I should want this.
Oh, I know what you're gonna say because I didn't know if I should say it.
I think it's safer if I say it than if
exactly.
You say it. There is this was before our time, so I'm not even personally nostalgic for it. Other than
I love it.
In general, this was a part of our childhood.
Weird way.
Is there used to be a restaurant called Aunt Jemima's Kitchen at Disneyland, and there is a pancake sign from that restaurant that has the Aunt Jemima, which is a problematic, and for our listeners who don't know that I'm black, a problematic image. And so I am torn, but I kind of want it just from a historical kind of perspective. I don't know, but this may have been the only time you could see a black face at Disneyland in the 60s that wasn't a guest. So I kind of want the Aunt Jemima's.
I saw it. I'm like, God, I can't buy that. And I was like, I don't even.
Probably shouldn't. And starting bid $1,350.
Wow, but it's so okay. It's not cool for what it was in the grand scheme of things. But when you're talking about pulling on heartstrings and nostalgia, that is nostalgia for being a child. And it sucks. The messaging sucks. Everything sucks.
Well, and that's why sort of moving into the modern world and understanding that these images have power and that power is sometimes not great is like, it's so hard to let go. Nostalgia is the thing that keeps people wanting to have that. And this is what this pick is. It's about nostalgia. Mm-hmm. And am I glad that we've moved beyond an age where that's an okay thing to do? Mm-hmm. Yes. Does it still fight with my nostalgia? Yes. Right. So,
Okay. All right.
I ate a lot of Auntie Mime's pancakes when I was a kid.
I'll go. It's not as bad as that route, but I'll go along that route. There is something and an attraction that I love, love, love that I really don't think should be at Disney World anymore. I'll get pushback for this, I'm sure, but that's the Country Bear Jamboree, which I've always loved, and I loved it at Disneyland. And taking the girls to that a couple years ago at Disney World, where I'm like, come on, let's go sit down. It's one of my favorites. And seeing how sexist it is and just some of the jokes that don't
has not aged well.
Quite hold up. I'm actually really surprised that it's still there. But there is Henry's Beehive little drink that he has on the piano. So that's there. I would love to have that little beehive prop. I think it's amazing. So it's kind of the same thing. Do I think Country Bear should still be there? Probably not. Do I love Country Bear? Yeah, I do. Girls don't love it, though. Girls are quite happy not to ever go there again.
Smart.
Yeah.
They are smart.
All right. Do you have a last one then?
I do. And this one is special because I actually did place a bid.
You did? What? Just now? Oh, yeah. Great.
As we were talking.
Awesome. Okay.
And hold on. It is on the
I'm here. I'm not
Disneyland dedication.
I saw that.
Limited replica.
I saw it.
And here's why. When years ago, when we made our visit to Disney World and I flew out to surprise you, okay? And we were walking around at the time, I think it was called Downtown Disney.
Yeah.
I saw in a store a Disney World dedication plaque. And I went to the person working there and I said, oh my gosh, I know this isn't Disneyland, but do you know if they did one for Disneyland? And it was early enough in the evening. Well, I guess because the time worked. That she said, I think they did. Let me call Disneyland. So she called Disneyland and they said, yes, we have them. We've got 2 left. Does he want me to hold one?
And you said no?
Because I had already sort of stretched my budget just to make the trip to Disney World. And I was like, and I was living in Santa Barbara at the time. And I was like, okay, what's it going to take for me to, and it was a couple days into the trip. So it was going to be like a week before I could, and I had an annual pass at the time. It's going to be like a week before I could get back. And I was like, ultimately I said no.
Of course.
And then I think I went to Disneyland a week later and they were gone.
So
and I have been searching for that item ever since.
What's the bid? What's the bid right now? Not your bid, but what's the starting bid?
Not my bid. The current bid is $185.
Okay.
No, it's currently at $180.
Okay.
And it ends, as of this recording, in 21 hours, 14 minutes, 40 seconds.
So by the time you all are listening to this...
I have searched for this item. Okay. It is one of those items that it never comes up on eBay. The people who have this item, it's the thing as a collector, rarely give it up. Because I've actually got a replica of this that I bought off Etsy. But this is an official Disney-produced replica.
That's right. Right. I remember that now. Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, I cannot not bid on this.
Okay.
I cannot not bid on
So you heard it here.
And my worry is I put a bid in, the top of my bid, I think is respectable, but may not get it done. Mm-hmm. And so my question is, when push comes to shove tomorrow morning,
will you go up?
When the thing ends, how will I react? Will I go up? Because I've been wanting this thing for over 20 years, almost 25 years now that I think about it. So that's my last item, and if I win, believe me, we will post it on our socials.
Oh, I'm going to post it even if you lose, but it'll be fun to see what the winning bid was.
It'll be. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's currently at 180. My bid is higher than that by a fair amount.
Okay.
And we'll see.
All right.
I really want it. I want it so bad.
Okay.
I want it. What do you have as your last item?
All right. My last item, and again, I'm not bidding on anything because I'm cheap and because I'm going on a Disney cruise. But I loved the unfolded map from 1958 that was.
Oh my god, I want that so bad.
Because I'm a map collector, I have maps from every time period of my life, but they are all folded. And so even if I do want to get them framed, they still have that folding thing in them. You know, the crease marks are going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the old maps. I do have some old maps. So, but
wait, hold on. Just a question for you. Do you have the map?
I think I ate it. All right. Go ahead, friends. Tell us what that quote is from.
You won an official Dueling Disney no prize because we don't make any money on it.
We don't. But we'll really respect you. How about that? All right.
Oh, yeah.
Before we go, I want to show you some items that I have. You tell me if you think they'd be auctionable or not. I'm not saying I would.
Okay.
Okay. So, first one. The 50th anniversary Disney ears that you only got.
2005.
You only got if you went.
Only got
on the actual day.
100,000% auctionable.
Yeah.
Is that? I'm trying to look at. So here's the thing. With these kinds of things, it's not only the item, but it's in whether it's in good condition, and that looks to me to be in really.
We haven't done anything with them for 20 years, other than kind of.
Particularly, what makes it auctionable is the specific July 17th, 2015. I remember that day because I couldn't. 2005. I could not go. I think it was during
It was the last day of Comic-Con. We were driving home from Comic-Con and we decided, let's go. Let's see what's up. So, okay.
I'm so jealous.
That's auctionable.
Okay, so definitely auctionable.
What about...
Now, did you search to see if any of these items were on that auction?
No, but I looked at the whole auction thing. But you're right, I should search. Okay. What about the antenna 50th anniversary holder that hasn't been ever used? You think or no?
That may be less so.
Okay, less so.
Just because the antenna toppers are pretty
common.
So many people just got those.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. There's rarity, condition. Yeah. Right.
This one, I'd have to look specifically. I think it's from the 60s. So if it's from the 60s, this little saucer it's not an ashtray, but it's a little like tea saucer kind of thing.
Oh, that's interesting. Potentially, because here's the thing. The only thing about sort of collecting is you have to have somebody that wants it. And you find somebody who went to Disneyland in the 60s. It's just like me with the dedication plaque.
Yeah.
Saw that, wanted it, didn't get it. They're going to pay you a lot of money for it.
Or I'm wondering if there's like a set. Like, is there a set of them where that's one of a set? I haven't even looked, so I'm not saying I looked. Okay.
Yeah, but I think it's auctionable. Yeah.
I'm going to show you these. Oh, I didn't get you the one I wanted to show you. Darn it. I messed up. I have some watches. Well, I have some watches, and they're all from Disney stores. So I have Sleeping Beauty, Beauty and the Beast.
Yes. Yeah.
And I have the gold and silver Mickey watch. But what I do have, I wonder. Okay, I don't know what I did with it now. But what I do have is my
Mickey watches and Disney store watches are notoriously there is a subsection of Disney collectors that only focus on watches. So I think those are ridiculously auctionable.
I have when I was a cast member at the Disney store, I have a black band watch. On the inside it has the Disney store logo, the original one where he was in like the cheerleader kind of costume, Letterman sweater thing. I thought I grabbed that. I did not grab that. So anyway, that's
any cast member stuff. You know this. Yeah. Like people are going to want it.
Okay.
People are going to want anything that cast members only could have.
Here is the ticket for Euro Disney 1992. And it's got a number on it.
Yes. And then was that, I can't remember, is that opening year?
Yeah.
I mean, it was definitely called Euro Disney.
I got it. You mean Disneyland Paris?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Disneyland Paris, right? No, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's called Disneyland Paris right now. It was Euro Disney.
It was Euro Disney at the time. Yeah.
And so this was given to me before the park opened, but it's a Yeah, it's a ticket to go. And you know who gave that to me?
Oh my God.
My
Absolutely. Particularly, I think you probably get more for an auction in Europe than you could get here, but absolutely auctionable. Here's the other thing while you were talking.
mm-hmm.
There is in the Heritage auction, a assorted Disney cast member exclusive watches group of 11 that is currently at $975 for the current bid
For the set of watches.
for the set of watches.
Okay, interesting. I can't believe I forgot to pull my cast member one. That was so dumb. But anyway, I have those other ones that are from the Disney store because it's when I worked at the Disney store. Oh, and I just saw that they have like little numbers on the back that tell you what part of the edition that it's in or whatever. So, all right, great.
Yeah, and they're numbered. So I think those watches would be, yeah.
But I don't think there's anything that I just showed you that I would actually sell. So there you go.
Well, that's the dilemma of collecting, right? It is that, like, I have literally 3 items that are currently in this auction for, if you collectively, a couple grand.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sell them.
Yeah.
Would I like a couple more grand more than I have now? Sure. I'm not selling that Steamboat Willie. I'm not selling that monorail. Like I love that little Disney.
Yeah. Yeah.
2 of the 3 are currently on display in my office. So if you want to rob me,
that's where it is. You have to go to Berkeley.
You know, I've just admit it. You just go to my office and grab very expensive Disney collectibles. That my renter's insurance probably wouldn't.
Oh my God, will you just be quiet? You are literally like, oh, you're so weird. You don't know who's listening. One of our 10 listeners. You don't know. Maybe the 11th will come by and rob you blind. Great. Anyway.
Well, please don't.
Well, I know we have more than 10 listeners because we have a great group of Dueling Disney Community Duelists. It's a private Facebook page, but we would love for you to join in on our conversations there. So go ahead over to Facebook, look for Dueling Disney Community Duelists. Just click that you'd like to be a member. We'll check you out. Make sure you're not, weirder than us, I guess. And then
or a bot.
Accept you in the group. Anyway, yeah, and then we want to know what you have that's collectible or what you think you would want. Like, what would you spend your hard-earned cash for? We are on YouTube, so if you're watching us here, you already know that, and you've seen our items that we have. If you're listening on podcasts today, you might want to check us out on YouTube just because we showed some of our auctionable items that we have and pictures and kind of things like that. We're at duelingdisney.com. You can find us at Facebook and Instagram at Dueling Disney. You can always hashtag Dueling Disney and we'll see it. Please share a review wherever you watch or listen to Dueling Disney.
Coming soon to video cassette, the magic, the music, the masterpiece. One of Walt Disney's greatest podcasts is coming your way on video. Dueling Disney.